You're still watching the AM show. I'm Mapitso Sebidi. Now, labor unions and public universities in Ghana are threatening an industrial action should government fail to honor the implementation of memoranda of agreements between the parties. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, Ghana Association of University Administrators, Tertiary Education Workers Union of Ghana, and the Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana at a press conference Wednesday cautioned governments to refrain from varying their conditions of service if they want to have a peaceful environment to negotiate with the IMF. We'll look at that today, and joining me for that conversation is Dr. Samuel Nkumban, who's the UTAG President, University of Ghana. Doc, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to viewers.
Now, let's start with the MOU, when it was signed and what was contained in it.
Thank you very much. A couple of MOUs were signed between UTAG particularly and government. In June of 2021, we had an agreement with government, particularly with reference to some payroll allowances that are due UTAG members. In addition to that, contained in that MOA was also the clause that given the frequent hikes in prices of fuel, we would have government review fuel allowances at least twice every year. And I must indicate that that has not happened.
Okay.
So from June 2021, that MOA was signed on 16th of June 2021. Up until June this year, the agreement that such allowances will be reviewed twice every year didn't happen. Also, with regards to the book and research allowances, in August of last year, we did have an MOA signed again.
Okay.
And the agreement was that by close of August of this year, we would have received our book and research allowances, and as we speak, that has not been paid. The trouble has been that from June this year, there was notice to an increment in the fuel allowances, which stood at 6.05 Ghana cedis, to an increment to 10.99 Ghana cedis. So this is what was supposed to take effect from 1st July of this year. So management of the universities have used that to recalibrate the allowances in terms of vehicle maintenance as well as off-campus allowances. Notice comes this month to indicate that management of the universities should reverse that increment. And the indication is that it doesn't apply to others who are deserving of the vehicle maintenance and off-campus allowances. And so, that increment stands for only duty bearers. And so it's some kind of creating some hierarchies that would not inure to the benefit of all of us. Besides that, I think earlier in the year, sometime in March, government indicated that it was going to vary again the situation regarding fuel allowances. It stood in gallons. So if you were a deserving faculty, say you are entitled to 5 gallons of fuel per month, government sought to vary that and to determine that in an absolute figure in terms of monetary reward, so that you no longer are entitled to the allowance pegged in gallons. So all of these have happened without recourse to the unions in terms of, say, negotiating conditions of service. It's the case that if there's reason to vary our conditions of service, we think that the good thing to do would be to engage us and to say that for A and B reasons, we need to relook at your conditions of service. And in any case, I don't see in which country that you would want to vary conditions of service of workers to their detriment in terms of the fact that it rather has a negative implication on them. And so that is where we find ourselves, and we think that government is not treating us fairly when it comes to these matters, and that is what has brought us to the press conference of yesterday.
Now, talk about a book and research allowance. In your line of work, isn't that something you're supposed to do already?
Well, of course, we are entitled to a book and research allowance, which allows for us to be able to subscribe to journals, to be able to conduct research, and to be able to publish.
Okay.
And also to be able to improve quality of teaching as regards new trends that come in each of the fields of study that we are engaging with.
Yeah.
Now, what we are even saying, this book and research allowances usually should come at the beginning of the academic year so you can work with. But what we are talking about is arrears for last academic year.
I see.
And so we kind of pre-finance many of the activities that we have to carry through. And the academic year is ended. We are beginning the next academic year pretty soon, and yet we have not been paid for the previous year. And that is where, that is what the situation is. And many of the other bit is that we have written several times to government as reminders in terms of the fact that we do have these agreements and we don't get feedback. And so when the fuel situation came up with government varying that without recourse to us, we wrote to indicate that it was not right. We wrote to the Labour Commission to indicate that it was not right for government to vary our condition of service without recourse to us. Labour Commission acknowledged receipt of our letter, I think, on the 4th of May.
Okay.
And sometime in April, wrote to government, giving government within 7 working days to give us a feedback. And as we speak, we have not had any feedback. On the 22nd of this month, we again wrote to government and to the National Labour Commission. And as we speak, there hasn't been any formal response from their side. And that doesn't seem sufficiently fair to us.
So some would say that talking about the book and research allowance, this is your line of work. For example, with me, I'm on television, so I wear makeup, I have like my dresses, and I pay for my dresses because that's my line of work. That's what I've chosen. Why should government pay you for the book and research allowance?
Well, of course, it's an agreement we had with government because, in fact, this has been like from the year 2005.
Okay.
And it was obvious that our condition of service was bad, and it was not possible to sustain ourselves with the kind of salaries at the time.
Okay.
And it's the same, nothing has changed. And so this was provided in order to mitigate some of the expenses that we make.
Yeah.
And so, for example, you send a scientific journal to a paper to a journal, and they require you to pay $700 before it's published.
I see.
And so, and your promotion is not based on the fact that you work 3 years and then you are promoted to the next rank. Your promotion is based on the fact that you are productive academically. And that means that you are researching, you are publishing. And so the number of papers you publish, your extension services, and the teaching that you do are that which contribute to your growth in terms of getting promoted. And so these are agreements we have had with government over the years, and we think that even if there is reason to vary that, then of course we have to get to the table.
Now, when last did you receive the book and research allowance?
Well, it would be, I think it was October of last year for the previous academic year. So it's always in arrears of 1 year.
Of 1 year, okay. So we understand that you are fighting reduction of your fuel allowance. How much did you ask for? How much is government saying they'll give you?
So, like I said, in the MOA of 2021, we agreed that twice every year they will adjust it upwards based on the ex-pump rates. As of this time, you and I know that fuel is buying around 14 Ghana cedis. And so the increment that came from the side of government took it from 6.05 cedis to 10.99 cedis. We don't have a problem with that. We are not asking for an adjustment above the 10.99 as we speak, because that was what was communicated to us by government. But government is saying that 10.99 is not meant for all those who are supposed to be enjoying it. And so if you were enjoying it at 6.05, then you are going to continue to enjoy it at 6.05, despite they have communicated that it has gone up to 10.99.
Yeah.
And that the 10.99 is limited to certain small group of persons who you will refer to as duty bearers. And so we don't think that is generally fair, because we are all going to the same market, we are going to the same fuel pump. I don't think they mean to tell us that it is less expensive now to buy fuel or less expensive now to maintain our vehicles, so that we are not entitled to the 10.99, which government itself communicated.
Now, how would this negatively affect the role that you play?
So the point is this, that somebody lives in Kaswa and has to come to University of Ghana to work.
Yeah.
He buys fuel, right? He maintains his vehicle. And so if that is the basis upon which we are determining the off-campus allowances and the vehicle maintenance allowances, which are tied to how much the ex-pump rate is in terms of fuel, then of course, what it will mean is that if you were enjoying it at 6.05 and it goes up to 10.99, you are getting something more than 5 cedis at least on each liter. And so at the end of the day, an individual is going to be losing not less than 500 Ghana cedis for, say, vehicle maintenance, and another possibly 500 Ghana cedis out of, say, off-campus allowance. And impliedly, so you're talking about something in the range of over 1,000 cedis that each individual is going to lose out on.
But you can see that, I mean, the economy is not at the right space right now. Would it be so bad to ask you to sacrifice?
Well, of course, that is what I'm saying. If it is the case that government wants to ask labor unions to sacrifice, call us to the table.
Okay.
You don't do that sitting in your office and writing letters and giving directives to people to act.
So you're saying you haven't been engaged?
We haven't been engaged.
Okay.
In many of these that have come, they are just letters that are directing management as to what to do. And so if indeed there is a genuine concern that the economy is as bad, and so everybody has to sacrifice, we have to see what government is doing on its part by way of sacrifice, so that you can require of your constituents to also make sacrifices. Aside that, you don't issue directives without recourse to engage in them. And that is where we find problematic.
And you've written to the Employment Ministry, you've written to the Labour Commission, and
Many
still
times.
you haven't gotten responses from them.
April of last year, from April of this year we wrote, there's no response, and the 22nd of this month we wrote again.
So what's the way forward if they don't respond?
So at the press conference, we indicated that within a week we expected some feedback. And if we do not get the feedback, of course, usually the national executive committees of these unions that will have to get together again and then engage with our members, and then we take a decision on what next line of action we take.
And you're not worried about the students that it will affect?
Well, of course, many of the times it's been the case, and you would agree that we've been sufficiently magnanimous when it comes to dealing with our students, and that many of the times we have had to suspend our industrial action in order to ensure that at least we bring back the academic year to in line. And many of the times we also work without going on vacation in order to realign the academic year when some of such things happen. And like I said, we suspended our industrial action August of last year in the hope that the MOAs we signed were going to be implemented by our employer. And it's obvious that none of such agreements have been duly followed by way of government seeking to implement them. And so it gets to the point where you are pushed to the wall beyond certain limits, and the next line of action is explosion. That is the kind of thing that we hope that government would not get us go as far as that.
All right, so let me go to the phone lines right now. Joining me is the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ofosio Asamoah. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good morning.
Now, you've heard what Dr. Nkuman has to say. Any thoughts? What would you like to say?
Unfortunately, I did not hear him in full, so I don't know what.
Okay, well, they are threatening a strike over unpaid allowance, and he mentioned that they have sent letters to your offices and they haven't gotten a response. And I mean, they obviously want a response. Do you have one for them?
So let me indicate that
all the things that have come from their end have been worked on. And I listened to the press conference and I read the press release, and I don't think that they mentioned at any time in point that we did not respond to any letter. All that was reference made to me as a person, as the Executive Secretary, that I am there looking on to what the government is waiting for them to go on strike and then to do the usual. That is the only part that I think comforting. As a commission, the commission has looked at the matter, the commission has looked at the situation. We have gone ahead to negotiate on the terms of payment that is supposed to be paid in August, so that if the employer or government has supported the payment, the only thing to notify the commission that then we came to you, we said this, the government has not performed this part, so we will then move in to to ensure that we enforce the decision. But today we are very looking on what I think that was unfortunate. But anyway, it has come. So we are going to act on it and going to act.
Dr. Nkuban, you wanted to say something?
Yes, so I wanted to indicate that the letter we wrote to the Labour Commission in April, we got a response from the Labour Commission acknowledging receipt of the letter, and that they had directed the ministry to respond. And so for the Labour Commission, at least there was an acknowledgement of receipt of our letter to them.
Okay.
And directive given to government within 7 working days for government to give us feedback is on the side of government. We have not had any feedback.
Okay, it's on the side of government. Okay, but Mr. Samoa, why are we here today? What exactly is the problem?
In fact, I do not know until having just been told through their press conference. Because if normally when we say the parties go and government pay the allowances, government will not come and tell us. Neither will they come and tell us, because after all, what we directed is being done. It is only when there's a default in the performance of one of the parties. And what we ordinarily expect is that one party will inform us. That is what has come yesterday. So we have to know. I'm sure government has said them loud and clear. So we will also do our part to make sure that we don't get to what is getting here.
And when you say you also do your part, what exactly will you do?
We will enforce that. Whatever is there to be done.
And you know what is to be done, right?
Sure.
So would you like to tell us, or tell Dr. Nkuban, what exactly is that you'll do? So you tell me that you want to do what will be done, but what is exactly that needs to be done?
Dr. Nkuban knows it. You know it, I know it.
Okay, well, my audience doesn't know it. I don't know it. So would you like to share with me?
The audience said that they want a restoration of their fuel allowance, where it ought to be that their book and research allowances should be paid, which is an area should be paid, and any other matter. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Please speak Dr. Kuban for me.
Yes, good morning, senior.
Sure.
Good.
Now, but so here's the thing, that we're always having these issues coming up, right? What's the NLC doing so that they don't come up again?
This question should be directed to the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Employment. As for NLC, we have decided our part. So it is for whoever is to pay, who has not to answer that. And is that all good?
It's not really okay, but I'll take it like that because it seems like you don't want to answer my question.
Who is to pay the book and research allowance?
It's government.
Who is to pay the fuel allowance?
All right, I hear you. I thank you, Mr. Ofosu Asamoah, who's the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. Okay, but as a mediator, what are you doing?
We are going to make sure it's paid.
You're going to make sure to what?
That the needful is done.
So you have 1 week to do this. Is that enough?
Since we are not I cannot see whether it's enough or not. But at least we'll begin the process.
But you're part of these meetings, are you not? And you have seen the letters. So you should have some sort of idea.
No, we are not part of the meetings beyond giving the decisions from the committee. We are not part of the decisions thereafter. That is between the union, government, UTAG, and committee, and not the Labour Committee.
So do you think that UTAG is being too hard on government, looking at like the economic situation, the current economic situation of the country?
But I am unable to comment.
Dr. Nkuban?
Yes.
Do you think you're being too hard on the government?
Unfortunately, no, because if we consider the cost of living, then certainly we are sufficiently lenient. Given that for how many years down the line, we've not had any increment in our basic salaries beyond any meaningful measure. You will recall that as a result of COVID, we got only 4% basic salary rise.
Yeah.
The following year, which is this year, what we are getting is just a 7% increment in basic pay. And that certainly is not commensurate with the kind of costs that we have to incur in terms of our living conditions. And so I wouldn't say we are being harsh, but what of course is important is that if government is willing to plan and plan properly, when you go into negotiation and agree on what has to be done within certain times, well, our expectation is that you would also have planned and made preparation to meet those timelines.
Yeah.
And so for us to wait until the deadlines elapse, and then you come and complain and to give, I don't want to use the word excuses, but it seems to me that that is what the situation is. And that is where we have difficulty. So if you had agreed that by end of August, you are going to pay book and research allowance. End of August is due. We send you a reminder that we are getting to the deadlines, which we set ourselves. You say you are working at it. Today, September 29th.
But what were some of the reasons that government gave?
I mean, it's just the usual processes. We have done this, it's approved from here, it's at this office. From 7th of September, we got a letter indicating that Ministry of Education had authorized release of funds to Ghana Tertiary Education Commission for the payment of the book and research allowances from 7th September until date.
Yeah.
We have not had any feedback in terms of where we are, whether the UTAG has received the funding or not. We have not received our payments, and that is the bottom line.
And then when last did you engage the Employment Ministry?
We wrote a letter again to Ministry of Finance on the 22nd of this month, and we have not had feedback.
22nd of this month, so that was just like some 5-ish days ago.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course,
and
that was before then we had written in April and in May.
And had you gotten responses?
We haven't gotten responses.
Okay.
And so, in particular, this was also triggered by the fact that a directive had come again to vary the fuel allowance from 10.99 to 6.05 for some category of workers. So that is what triggered the 22nd letter again, which of course we have written again to the Labour Commission as well to indicate that that would not be acceptable to vary our conditions of service to our disadvantage.
But the question still remains that why can't you sacrifice looking at the current situation of the economy?
If you require me to sacrifice, we had an agreement. Come to me. Let's talk. And so that is the bottom line. Also, you don't sit in your office and write directives.
Okay.
And so it doesn't show sufficient respect to the partner that you are dealing with when it comes to that. So if you require me to sacrifice, you need to engage me to come to terms with you that this is reasonable and that we can go with this. And so that is the point we are making. It's not a case that anybody wants this country to crash.
Of course not.
Of course not. And so we have to see that on the side of government, you are doing what you mean, tightening your belt. And so when you ask us to tighten ours, then it will make sense. And so besides that, you can tighten it for us whilst you have not engaged us. That is the point we are making. We need that engagement to happen.
Okay, so let me go to the phone lines. Mr. Samoy, are you still with me?
Yes.
So when these MOUs are signed and they're written out, is it not the job of the NLC to follow up and make sure that things are done according to what was agreed upon?
Well, you see, the NLC current strength will not allow us to do a follow-up on all the MOUs and the agreements that are given to us. Ordinarily, we should be able to do a follow-up on it. But our current staff is just a little over 50. Spread in Accra, Takoradi, and Kumasi. And we are not resourced enough. So it makes things difficult. So ordinarily, we are on some of the things that when we come to us, I think we do our best that we are doing the focus time.
So, Mr. Asama, what I'm hearing from you is that the National Labour Commission is also struggling with resources. Is that what you're saying?
But I think we are struggling that most of the people we receive complaints from.
Please repeat your answer.
I think we are struggling more than people who come to complain to us.
So-
But that we are the key to solve their problem.
Okay, so you're okay. I understand you're struggling more than the people coming to you for answers. So what are you doing about your own struggles, so that you can help the people that are asking for help? Because if you are suffering yourself, how will you help the next person or the next?
Oh no, we have a huge welfare, and that is what we are doing.
But okay, so you're saying you're doing your best, but as we are looking at it right now, your best is not enough.
Yes, that I agree personally.
You are,
It's definitely not enough. Yes, I know. Because, like I said, we are limited. Our business, we have always been that market, that graduate tema. And we don't have now to attend to all that. Research department, the doctor is looking at the staff. We have people resigning here and there. So we are managing, but it's not easy, I must say. It is not easy. We just struggle to keep our heads above the water to make sure that the labor front is fine.
okay, so you're saying it's not easy. You say you have limited resources. You say your best is not enough. You say you have a lot of struggles. How do we make sure that these things that keep on coming up don't come up? Because if you're saying you're not having it easy and it's tough for you, that means next year we'll be sitting here having the same conversation. 2 years later, we'll still have the same conversation. So how do we move forward?
Yeah, I think the players in the labor industry must all come to assist the commission in the performance of this function. At the moment, it is the government alone that sponsors the National Labour Commission.
Okay.
Our other partners, that is the Employers Association and the Labour Union, do not contribute to the financing of the Labour Commission. The discharge is big. And we know, at least from the conversation we are having now, government is report in payment of allowances to teachers, report in payment of allowances to teachers, not them alone, cluster local government services, almost all the government. It tells you how overburdened the government may be. So that there is a need for other people or other organizations to assist the commission to perform it. And that is what we face now. It is either from government or nothing at all. So that is the problem.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Mr. Asamoah. So, Dr. Nkrumah, you've heard what he's saying, that they are also struggling. They don't have it easy. They don't have the resources, enough resources to mitigate all of that is happening. Do you have any reactions to that?
Well, of course, I guarantee that it's a nationwide situation that, on a lighter note, nowhere cool. And the reality is also that many of the times, National Labour Commission is able to enforce its directives when it comes to the unions. When it comes to government failing on its part, then it becomes difficult for the Labour Commission as well to ensure that government is compelled to do what it has to do. So, if you will recall, when we went on the industrial action, Labour Commission indicated that the industrial action was illegal, and UTAG defiled the order. They went to court. The court ruled against us, and we had to suspend the action. Now, government has an agreement with us to deliver a certain mandate, which Labour Commission is aware of. Government has not delivered on the mandate, and we haven't seen what Labour Commission has done to government as a party that also requires some shipping in line. So that is the challenge we have when it comes to dealing with government, dealing with Labour Commission, and so on and so forth. It may be the case, of course, that is understaffed, the resource base is poor and all of that. But at least when it comes to enforcing agreements that have been signed, I should think that Labour Commission should be in the position to say straight to government that you have not done your part of the bargain. And once we tell truth to each other in the faces, I think we would be able to arrive at some amicable resolutions of some of these matters.
Okay, talking about government not playing their part, joining me on the phone lines is Bright Rekuberi, who is the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good morning, and good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners.
Now, you've heard UTAG and others are threatening to strike over fuel allowance. We also have the NLC saying that they don't have it easy. They have limited resources. They say they're doing their best, but their best is not enough. They are really struggling. Okay, so do we have any reactions from your side, starting with that?
Well, since there are two issues on the table, who from UTAG is on the other side, please?
We have Dr. Samuel Nkumban.
Okay, Sam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. What's happening now is that I will not be in a position to give details of what government is doing now regarding just the immediate causes of the impasse that has come to our attention. Yesterday, thankfully, the Minister for Education and my Minister, the Honorable Bafurwa, had intention to meet with the leadership of the 4 unions. Unfortunately, because it was very close to call and they had to go to cabinet, they assigned me to meet with them, gather all the information, and when they come this morning, we would have a meeting and see the way forward. As I speak to you, I have not met my minister, I have not met the education minister, and therefore I'm unable to go ahead with whatever we discussed, and I can't also preempt their actions. But I would want to give assurance to parents, to students, to workers themselves. I mean, the 4 unions, TEU, SSA, UTAG, and all the others, that whatever it is, this we have seen some before. Anytime matters like this come, we have sat at round table, we have had discussions, and we've always been able to find solutions. Now that we are in very deep crisis and trying to come out of it and finding solutions, I believe they are our biggest partners in doing this. And for me, when my ministers come this morning, that's the first thing on our table. I will discuss with them and then brief them what happened, and then we will find solutions. So by close of day, maybe, or tomorrow, we will be able to tell as it is what government intends to do to avert any industrial action. The second, on the National Labour Commission, regarding their funding or resource allocation, you know that it's a state institution. And just like any other state institutions, we've all had to manage. You recall that as part of austerity, every MDA was supposed to do away with a 30% cut. So generally, we have these things that are happening to all state institutions, but we are managing. And National Labour Commission is no exception. They also have confronted and faced with these funding challenges. And from time to time, we try to meet them very, very dire need. But I hope that as and when government resource envelope improves, Labour Commission will be one of the institutions that will be fully resourced. I must say that it is not that we haven't resourced them. I mean, under this government, Labour Commission has been able to open about 3 offices. As we speak now, Labour Commission has an office in Kumasi, which is functioning. It has an office in Takrady. So people hitherto have to come all the way from the western side, Jomoro and all that, now end at Takrady and present their petitions and business going on. All these things have happened under this regime. So I pray and hope that as and when things improve, no institution and by extension, the NLC will not be left out. Thank you.
So before you go, you say you've seen it before. You have, dealt with this before. But why do we keep on seeing it? What exactly is the problem?
Very good question. We are dealing with human beings. I always tell people that the only ministry that deals with human beings, that's purely social science, is the Ministry of Labor. So something happens today, you solve it. The next day, another thing happens in similar forms, or they metamorphose into something else. Remember that at any point in life, and for me, doing governance is not different from us we settle in our homes. So if you buy Christmas dresses for your children, for example, in 2021, we are now in 2022. Some may say, oh, last year is good for you, use it. Some may have resources to buy new ones for them. But it's all about dialoguing and talking. And to the extent that you engage, you always get the best outcome. So that's why I said I've seen it before. You resolve the problem today, it comes with either another matter somewhere, and particularly where we find ourselves now, we are in crisis, honestly speaking. And to that extent, you know that some of the things we intended resolving and so on may not come resolved as anticipated. Whatever it is, we will have challenges, and they are bound to happen. They are so natural course of life. And so I would plead with all stakeholders that we will engage and then together find amicable resolutions to every impasse.
And we hear that you say that government will do everything possible to avert any industrial action. And you also talk about engaging and talking. But Dr. Nkumban here says there hasn't been any engagement. They only just get directives from the top. So if you had engaged previously, then maybe this wouldn't have been happening. It feels like a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, even yesterday we engaged. Remember that this matter only surfaced some 1 or 2 weeks ago. And for us in the Labour Ministry, we received a letter which was even copied to us, I think Friday or Monday. And yesterday, we did everything possible. Remember, if you want to engage, these are 4 unions, and mostly they are not based in Accra. Even the leadership of UTAG is based in Takwa. So when you invite them, they need a day or two to get to you. Then you get SSA. Currently, I think their leadership is somewhere in Ejumako or something like this. So bringing all this together, it's not like the matter surfaces and immediately you are engaging. You need to consult, get all of them on board, times that will be convenient for everybody. So it's not that simplistic. And trust me, I must say that all these union leaders, including Nkumban, they've been very supportive. Anytime we get to them, they come to the table, even though they also have a constituency that they are experiencing lots of heat. When they come and we explain matters to them, as rational as they are, they understand. So for me, the engagement is key and better late than never. So as we are engaging, I think something good will come out of it. Yesterday's meeting was very fruitful, and I am sure that this morning, as I'm going to brief my ministers, we will move another year of fruitfulness and ensure that we avert this strike that is looming in our face at the moment. So everybody should be calm. Let me end on this note. That don't be panicked. Our wards, some are in school, some are about to graduate, some are yet to go, and so on. And parents, become very worried when they hear these kinds of things. I want to use your medium to appeal to everybody that calm will be restored, and we will meet ourselves halfway at all times. We've done that, and we will be able to do so.
Bright Rokubobre is Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Nkuman, back here in studio, are you satisfied with the answers you just got?
Well, I mean, the reality is this, that, like I said, from April when they varied the fuel thing from gallons to absolute figures, we wrote, we didn't get feedback. And so if there is, of course, we have all said that engaging with one another is a critical thing. And so for us to write since April to complain about the fact that you've varied our condition of service, we're entitled to a certain number of gallons of fuel. You say you are no longer giving us in gallons, you are giving us an absolute figure. We didn't get any response. You didn't engage us. And it's the same thing that has happened with the reversal of this 10.99 increment that was announced. So I mean, it shouldn't happen before we go into these engagements. If you plan on doing something, let us have heads up. Prior notice. That is when the engagement becomes useful. But if it happens, you've given the directive and we rise against it and you are engaging us, then it becomes I don't think it's the right steps, in fact, in resolving matters of this kind.
So where are you willing to meet government?
Well, for us, it is for government to bring us to speed with what it is that it thinks is a reason why maybe a dean should be paid a fuel allowance of 10.99, and then an ordinary lecturer be paid the same allowance at 6.05. We cannot find any rationale for it, and so until that is clarified, we are not in the position to say this is what we are agreeing to and this is what we are not agreeing to.
All right, as you heard the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations that they will go into a meeting today. We're hopeful that they will bring us solutions.
Yes.
But if they don't bring us solutions...
Well, of course, in the press conference, we indicated that within 7 working days, we needed some feedback. If not, then the unions will have to reconvene and to look at what it is that we have to be doing going forward.
Okay, Dr. Simon Kuman, thank you so much for your time and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And he's been my guest. He's the UTAG President, University of Ghana. I also spoke to Bright Rokubobre, who is the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations. This is the AM show. We'll be back after this.